Hi, you're listening to Behind the Bib podcast with Lisa Watkins. Real talk for every runner. Hey y'all, greetings and salutations, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bib, where we have real talk for every runner, and I do mean every runner, y'all. Hi, I am your host, Lisa Watkins, and I am absolutely delighted to be here with you all today. And boy, woo-wee, do I have an episode for you this week. Man alive, the hometown half marathon in Atlanta, Georgia. I have some real feelings about this one, and I cannot wait to tell each and every one of you about it. I said we were going on an adventure before this trip, and boy did we. And I'm going to have to apologize to my father if he goes out there and listens to this episode, because there might be some spicy language in this one, because I just cannot do it without it, because I was feeling kind of spicy about it. If you have itty bitties, litty bitties out there listening in podcast land, you might want to put in your Beats, put in your AirPods Pro, put in your earbuds, whatever you have, or just maybe listen to it without the kiddos around. That's fine. Also, if you're my father, you may not want to listen to this one either. Okay, folks, tuck those kiddos away, and because this one is for the adults. Mom and Daddy going to sit down and have a little chat. All right, that's your warning. Before I dive into the absolute and utter shit show that the hometown half marathon was this week, y'all be careful out there. We have something called a heat dome that has just settled its little buttocks right over Huntsville, Alabama. So if you're a runner, if you're a walker, if you're an outdoorser person here in Huntsville or in the southeast, please be careful out there. It is going to be a hot one. Not just hot, but humid, right? And the humidity, that just keeps the water and the sweat sitting right there on top of your skin, and your body cannot cool itself down the way it's supposed to. So please, slow your paces down. Take your salt, take your electrolytes, take your water, be pounding water before the run, the morning of, the night before. Do all of the things. We don't need to pull you from those race courses, from those run courses. All right? Take care of yourself. We want to keep doing this forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay? How about we get started? Let's start off with something happy and joyful. Okay? Let's do that. And we're going to get started with that little segment that I call good reviews and bad jokes. So let's do that real quick. This is, if you leave me a good review or a comment or anything like that on the podcast, whether you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, wherever you listen to your podcasts, if you leave me a good review, I'm going to dedicate a bad joke to you. This week's bad joke goes out to Stacy Garboden. Sorry if I butchered your name, Stacy. I'm sure I did. She left a comment on the Every Woman's Marathon episode, and shout out to all the Huntsville pub runners who are signed up to do the Every Woman's Marathon in Scottsdale now. Woo! I am so happy that we are going to have a real contingent in Scottsdale now. We are going to do the things. I cannot wait. It's going to be great. All right, I already digress. I'm 15 seconds in and I've already went off on a rabbit hole. All right, good reviews, bad jokes. Focus, Lisa. Okay, Stacy Garboden. Garboden? This is your joke. Thank you for your comment on the Every Woman's Marathon episode. Hey, Stacy, what is Forrest Gump's email password? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? It's 1 Forrest 1. Of course. But shh. The crowds go wild. I know, right? Okay, folks, please leave a comment. And if you want a bad joke dedicated just to you, go out there and leave a comment on a podcast episode of your choice. Okay, let's dive in to the hometown half marathon that was in Atlanta, Georgia this last weekend. Ooh-wee, do we have some feelings. First, to start the fabulous weekend off, we got in the car on Saturday morning. Guess what? My pretty, not brand new Suburban would not start. Turns out the fuel pump regulator circuit board thing went bad. She refused to crank. So I was like, oh my God. I knew it was going to be hot, but you know what? I gave my word I was going to be pacing this race as a sweeper. And shout out to Run Buddy Michelle, who was like down for all the things. She's like, cool, I'll sweep too. So she signed up to sweep the race with me. So thank you, Michelle. I don't know if I should be thanking you or like, I owe you a big one now. So anyway, Sally, that's her name, Sally for the Suburban, Sally the Suburban, because she's a sweet ride. Another bad joke. Would not crank on Saturday morning, and she was in a garage. That was even better in downtown Atlanta. So my husband handled all the things, and I was very grateful for him to do that. We tucked our little tookuses in a lift ride over to the race start. So to begin with, the Hometown Half Marathon is put on by Body's Race Company. It is a for-profit race company, it's fine, y'all. We've got for-profit race companies out there. Not everybody can do this for a volunteer thing. Sometimes it's their daytime job, their gig. It puts a roof over their heads and food in their bellies and their kids to school and stuff like that. I get it. Some of them are great. We have a local run company, puts on a great race series, the Running Lane. They do great race series. If you've ever ran the Wild Things series, it's wonderful. Sometimes it can be really, really good. But when it's really, really bad, it sucks big time. So here's the thing. I was pacing for Beast Pacing. Now, we were sweepers for this race, and there was no technical cutoff, but we were targeting around the 3:30 time, right? And so that was a pretty good, solid half marathon cutoff time. Seemed fine. Registration was fine. We had to get there as part of the pace group. We had to get there about an hour and 15, well, it turned out to be an hour and 15 minutes early. It's supposed to be an hour early. So we had to get there early, right? So we got there about 7 o'clock. So for us, bib pickup was fine. But for everybody else, it was not as great. They had 2 people there doing bib pickup, which was probably okay for them. Maybe it was 400 to 500 folks. No, it wasn't 400 to 500 folks. It was maybe 250 folks doing bib pickup. So they had a couple of folks out there doing bib pickup. People were lined up down the sidewalk. They seemed to get it taken care of in enough-ish time. So if that was the only thing that was going to go wrong that day, I was not going to knock them for that. It's like, okay, fine. Little bit, the bib pickup could have been done better. It's okay. Medal. How about let's start off with a good, like, we're going to make a sandwich out of this, right? We're going to say something good about this race, and then we're going to dive into the shit middle, and then we're going to say some other good stuff about the whole event, right? So that it's not all bad. Okay, one of the good things is I'm going to show you right now is the medal. Okay, well, I am a medal. I'm not going to use that word. I'm not going to get that explicit. But if the race has a medal, I am going to be down for it. And this one is like the size of my hand. It's the size of a saucer, right? It's got some good girth to it. And I'm going to show it to the camera right here real quick. All right, try to get the glare off of it. Okay, so pretty sizable medal, right? You see that? Now, for those of you that cannot see the medal, I'm going to describe it to you. Winking at Cheryl over there. So this medal is made up of 4 concentric circles. The outside one is blue. The next one traveling toward the inside is white. The next one going toward the inside is red. And then on the center, you have a solid center that says Hometown Half Marathon. It has a cityscape in the background, and it says Hometown. And it kind of has, you know how baseball jerseys used to have that really cool baseball font on them? That's the font that Hometown is spelled out in. And Half Marathon is around the bottom of the circle in red. Now, I will say, I don't think that's the Atlanta cityscape. I think that's just a city that they use for the cityscape. So, pretty cool medal. I liked it. Also liked the t-shirt, although I don't really want to wear it because I don't want to advertise for it. So I'm going to be wearing that around the house and maybe just around not so populated places. I will say that the t-shirt's like, it's cool. It had a good logo on the front. It had a cool image on the back. It was a comfortable t-shirt. It wasn't dry fit. It was just a cotton one. But hey, it was cool. Not going to knock them for that. T-shirt was great. Medal was great. Now, let's get to the soft, gooey, smelly, squishy center of this sandwich that we're going to talk about today. First off, the race was moved from Sewanee, Georgia to downtown Atlanta. Originally, it was supposed to be in Sewanee. Did not occur in Sewanee, and about a week before the race, we get an email as a PACE team. It said, hey, we're moving the race. So hope you can still do it, okay? We're moving it to Grant Park, which is a big park in downtown, not quite midtown Atlanta, but it's in downtown Atlanta, where Zoo Atlanta is. And so it's a very, very popular park. Lots of folks go to this park. It's a great park. Not knocking Grant Park. It's wonderful. Go to Zoo Atlanta. It was cool. So everybody's lining up for the race. This race has 3 different races all together. It has a 5K, it has a 10K, and it has a half marathon. The half marathon was the one that yours truly was sweeping for. The 5K, the 10K, and the half marathon are all running on the same course. Ideally, the 5K would have a 5K turnaround, the 10K would have their own 10K turnaround, and then the half marathon would have their own 10K course. Keep in mind, this course was advertised as an out and back course. There was no part of this course that was an out and back. If you had designed a course by boiling a spaghetti noodle and then dropping that noodle on the table and said, yep, that looks like a great race course, that's exactly what this course would have been. It was a spaghetti noodle dropped on the table. It crossed back and forth across each other. It was winding up through the park. It was down the sidewalk of a road that was mislabeled on the map. Oh, so many problems with the race course itself. But the biggest problem would be that the 5K, the 10K, and the half marathon all ran the same course. By the way, this was on sidewalks. Well, I guess you could call them paths. It wasn't exactly a sidewalk through Grant Park, but a lot of it was on sidewalks that were going beside the road on the outside of Grant Park. So a lot of it was on paths. And these paths, whenever you came to like a fork in the road, or you needed to turn here or there, it was marked by these little red arrows. It's not on the pavement, of course, it's on arrows. 5K, 10K, and half marathon all have the same colored arrows. Now, it would be great if the arrows were placed in areas that you could see them, number one, and that pointed in an obvious direction of the turn that it's supposed to go to, and not, in some cases, pointing to a tree, or pointing to the middle of 3 different roads, or, in some cases, pointing toward a gate that was across a road that the gate was closed on, and so the runners had to run between the gate and the curb in that 18 inches of space that you have between the post of the gate and the curb of the sidewalk. Not really a sidewalk, but just the curb of the side of the road, right? So these little red arrows were the race course. Now, the little red arrows had, like I said, they were all over the place, but they were not pointing to anything specific. It was not obvious which direction you were supposed to turn from the arrow. In some cases, the arrow was pointing to the left when it was obvious, like the left, one arrow was pointing to the pickleball courts. And I looked to my run buddy. I was like, are we supposed to go play pickleball now? No. Okay, so that was all a thing. We get maybe 3-4 miles in to the half marathon, and we're on the other side of Grant Park at this point. There's runners that we see, and they're coming up to us because we're carrying the like sweeper signs, right? And these runners keep coming up to us, and they're like, hey, where is the 5K turnaround? And we looked at each other like, oh my God, it's way on the other side of the park. This didn't happen once, didn't happen twice, it happened multiple times, y'all. Where's the 5K turnaround? Where's the 5K turnaround? Because not everybody's out there running with a dang GPS watch. Like, not everybody has a Coros or a Garmin or an Apple Watch. They're just out there running. They trust that the race course is going to do their damn job. Well, that was misplaced trust in this case. So they're asking us, where's the 5K turnaround? We're like, oh, yo, it's all the way on the other side of the park. You have run 4 miles. You are very, very tired because you have run 4 miles and you were supposed to turn around at mile 1.5, something like that, right? So, oh my God, I felt so bad for these people, but not as bad as the people. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So we couldn't really hear the start line announcer because we were like lined up down these paths, and so if they were giving out specific race instructions, we never heard it. Most of the people didn't hear it. We were going on these little red arrows that were pointing to nowhere in some cases. So we ran all around Grant Park, and we're coming up. We're on the other side of the park, and we start wondering. I'm really confused because the road that we're running down is not the road that's on the map. Okay, it's like we are running down one road, but we're obviously on the course because there's cones on the outside of us. It's obvious that we're on the course, but the road that we are running down is not the road on the map. I don't know if they had a 12-year-old like do the map or they just mapped the wrong road. I don't know. But the two did not match up. And then we saw the 240 pacer, and we're like, whoa. So our other run buddy is like a 140, 150, maybe half marathoner, something like that. Maybe it's less than that. I don't know. But we haven't seen her yet. We're like, where's our other run buddy? Where's Christy? And we're like, I don't know. You know, we should have seen Christy by now, because if we saw the 240 pacer, and then here in about, I don't know, 10 minutes, we saw the 250 pacer. And then, get this, we saw the 210 pacer. And then we knew something was really going off the rails at this point. Because we were like, where are we supposed to go? And then we realized, oh, they don't know where they're supposed to be going either. So 5K people have missed their turnaround. At this point, 10K people are missing their turnaround because they're asking us where they go. The turnaround for the 10K, you had to kind of go around this curve, and then you just turned around and looped back on yourself. But again, the roads were not labeled properly on the map. You would never find it if you were actually going by the map. They did not do like a run go or anything like that for this race. It was just do your best. So speaking of which, once we saw the 240 pacer and then we saw the 250 pacer, and we were getting questions from everyone on where's the turnaround. You know what would it have taken? Like 3 $20 gift cards to Amazon to stick some marshals out there to say, hey, go this way for each one of the turns. Like, there were no marshals on this course, y'all. There were just like these little signs that said 5K turnaround or 10K turnaround. And guess what's a really smart place to put those signs? Where everybody would like stand in front of them, like put it right in front of an aid table. How about that? Yeah, we finally found them. They were right in front of the aid tables. The 5K one was anyway, exactly where people lined up to get the water. So how are you going to see that? Also, the signs were about 18 inches high. Yeah. So, course was mislabeled. Course was mismarked. Course turnarounds were non-visible, we'll just say, because you had to be standing right on top of them and nobody had to be standing in front of them for you to see it. All right. Also, there were no marshals at these turnarounds. One person to just look at the bib colors and say, hey, blue bib, turn around, you're a 5K-er. Nope, they didn't do that. Okay, so we were running with another girl. She was a sweeper. Shout out to Carol. Hey, Carol, you were a great run buddy. You made it really fun. She is supposed to be the very last runner. So at this point, we have seen the 240 pacer, the 250 pacer, the 210 pacer, and then we see what would probably be the 140, 150 group of runners. And we're like, oh, well, this is completely wrong. They're not going in order at all. Either they are way off course, somebody is way off course, and actually what it turned out to be, we were all completely way off course because the course made zero sense. And you had runners looping back and over and on top of other runners. It was absolutely crazy. Okay, so at this point, nobody knows where they're going. The 5K people have run 4 miles in the opposite direction. The 10K people are just running everywhere. We're crossing each other. People are running in the street. We are having to go side by side, like we're passing runners on sidewalks. Like some runners are coming towards us. Some runners are going away from us on the sidewalks. Everybody is running this crazy spaghetti loop course that was supposed to be an out and back. Or, and the out and back, you just did like, you turned around halfway for the 5K, you did one out and back for a 10K, and you did 2 out and backs for the half marathon. Yeah, it did not work that way. Okay, so here's the thing. This is when it starts to trickle through the course. The volunteers are being told, hey, we're just going to shift to an open course at this point. That means they said, y'all, we have absolutely effed up that y'all just go run whatever 13-mile course you want to run and then just come back to the finish line. Yep, they did that. They realized that the whole thing had turned into a complete and utter shit show and said, you know what? Yeah, my bad. Y'all just go run 13 miles and come back. So everybody was like, okay, well, I guess we're just on our own now. And here's the thing. Remember that we're in downtown Atlanta in the middle of one of the worst heat waves that has hit Atlanta in June before. We're out there. They did not start the course early, knowing that the heat was going to be tremendous today. They still chose to start the course at 8, which, by the way, they didn't actually start it till 8:15 because they were late. So not only did they not back the course time up, they didn't start it on time. At this point, we're maybe 10 o'clock or so. One lady, once they opened it and just said, it's an open course, right? The course was very hilly. So it said the course total elevation was supposed to be like 400 and something odd feet. It ended up being over 1,000 feet of total elevation gain. So it wasn't like gentle rolling hills. It was like fiercely rocking hills. So you had to go up these steep inclines to turn around and run back down. And you did this, throughout the half marathon. So once they opened the course, they were just like, hey, just run wherever. Then folks were like, you know where I'm going to run? I'm going to run down there in the shade then. I'm going to run down there in the flats. I'm going to run wherever people could find shade because they didn't open the race early and it was in the middle of a huge heat wave in Atlanta. Okay, one lady, no lie, one lady was running, there was a roundabout with a tree and it was like pretty shaded. And she was running her half marathon, just around and around in circles. Could you imagine doing that? I think I would rather run a half marathon on a treadmill. She was just running around and around in a circle around this roundabout. Absolutely not. Oh my God. So There was also another part of the course which is kind of flat and shady, and it was like down at the bottom of the course. So then lots of the runners like found that area, and they were like, yeah, we're just going to go stay down there. And then they just made their own track. It was probably 200 meters long. So they just made this long track, and then they just ran loops and loops and loops and loops and loops and loops and loops down there. But here's the thing. The aid was on the top of the park, and that was at the bottom of the park. So the water stations was at the 5K turnaround, and then just before the 10K turnaround, if you ever found it. So the water was in 2 locations. So hats off to 5K turnaround guy. I nicknamed him Goggins because he was out there. All of his volunteer help left. They quit. But he was out there rocking for 3.5. I don't know if he was out there for 4 hours, but he was out there pouring water himself out of these giant like jugs so that folks could get water. Now here's the other thing. The heat really started to hit around 10:30, 11 o'clock, because that's what it does, right? You're starting to get to the middle of the day. The heat is starting to hit 10:30, 11 o'clock. And the course starts to run out of water. Yep. So not only do they not provide any electrolytes, God help, that they provide any salt, electrolytes, Powerade, Gatorade, anything like that, if you were like concerned for the safety of your runners out there on a hot day. Nope, they provided water. Where did they provide water? In the hottest possible areas of the course. Okay, I get that, but you could have put it under like a tree or something, because I like room temperature water, not necessarily boiling water. And bless Gogginson's heart, because he was out there muscling these big old blue jugs, and he was getting the water out there. Everybody else, all the other volunteers, left. They just left. And so if you wanted water, you had to go over there and pour it yourself. And then the station started running out of water because they were not refilled. So yeah, you're in the middle of the hottest part of a heat wave in downtown Atlanta, and then the course starts to run out of water. Okay, so gets even better, folks. Like, this is just, I cannot, as we were running, each thing that happened, we were like, I cannot believe it's getting worse. Because at each point, you're like, oh, well, that's as bad as this is going to get, right? It can't possibly get worse. And then it would get worse. It would just get worse. So then they ran out of water. Okay. And then the next worst thing, actually it probably wasn't 11 o'clock, because it's Saturday morning. And what do people do on the Saturday morning? They go to Zoo Atlanta. Now, if you've ever been to Zoo Atlanta, it's a pretty kick-ass little zoo. It's not even a little zoo. It's a big zoo. It's a great zoo. And I highly recommend you go into that zoo. Do I recommend you running a half marathon when the zoo opens and all of the people start to descend upon Grant Park to go to the zoo on the same course that you are running? Nope, I don't recommend that, because what happens is that you're out there trying to run this course, and you have grandmas and grandpas and walkers and strollers, and you have itty bitties that are out there, and they're like, Mom, and they run, and then all of the things, and then just hordes of people have descended upon Grant Park to go to Zoo Atlanta and spend the day at the park, right? And that's exactly where we are supposed to be running the course through. How on earth? Oh my God. Okay, so course mismarked, no marshals. Course is like all 3 races start at the same time. The arrows for each of the racers are all the same color. The map is mismarked. There's like, we're running long stretches along the sidewalk. We're going through gates, stuff like that. And then the zoo opens. And then we're just running through these hordes of people going to the zoo. Okay, and then finally you're like, well, it can't get worse. That's what we thought as well. Because, all right, we're like watching our watches. We've agreed to kind of sweep this at the like 3:30-ish mark, right? So we start heading back. And then we start checking on our run buddy. She's long since finished. I know, like, we're out there in 95% humidity and 95 degrees, and we're all literally dying. I'll post the picture of me crossing the finish line because you can just see the I'm over this all over my face. So we cross the finish line and we're finishing up, and we're starting to talk to our run buddy. The people that had finished before us, when they came up to the finish line, they had like bags of chips and they had bananas, which, by the way, I didn't get one, but I heard that you had to like crunch it because the bananas were so green. So they had like bags of chips, they had bananas, they had fruit roll-ups. And then as the runners were coming in, they would grab a water, and then, you know how you normally do. You grab the chips, you grab the fruit roll-ups for some extra carbs, chips for the salt, banana for the potassium, and you got your jam, right? They were telling people, pick one. You heard me right. The runners were coming in. They had run out of water on the course. They had called it an open course. People paid money for this. They called it an open course. People just went out there, run 13 miles in 95-degree heat on concrete, and then they told them to pick one aid item. You could either have the rock-hard banana, the bag of chips, or the fruit roll-ups. And here's the thing. Again, it can't get worse. It got worse. They ran out the fruit roll-ups that were on the table. They were like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any more fruit roll-ups. But my run buddy is like, but there's another box right there behind the table. They just didn't want to open the other box. And you know what? They didn't. They absolutely didn't open the other box of fruit roll-ups. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. Oh my God. I'm just like, you would think that I'm making all of this stuff up. If I didn't live it, I wouldn't have thought that all of this could possibly happen at a race either. I'm surprised nobody went down on this race. There were people out there. This was their first half marathon. Are they ever coming back? Oh my God. Of course they're never going to do another half marathon. Why on earth would you? If this was the half marathon experience, absolutely not. Hard pass. No, no, no. Okay. All right. So I know I'm getting kind of spun up, but you know what? It's a thing. If all of these things were just like aesthetic things, like, oh, the medal is ugly, or the t-shirt is ugly, or whatever is ugly, or this wasn't great, and oh, the water wasn't super cold, or whatever. If all of that was like superficial stuff, it would have been okay. But here's the thing. This race had such disdain and utter lack of consideration for their runners' safety. I cannot possibly ever recommend that somebody do one of these races. It would be completely irresponsible of me to recommend that in any way, shape, or form. My God, just awful. It was so awful. I'm going to read you some other reviews from people that were at this race. Okay, let me bring one up. So this guy, he does a lot of the Run Disney races. The guy that runs as the Ratatouille chef. So he has the race, he has the chef hat, he runs the little puppet. Like, he does races and races and races and races. This guy is experienced. He's kind of locally famous and all of this. So I'm going to read you his report. Okay, Grant Park is beautiful and hilly. The course was supposed to be a double out and back that snaked through the park and its perimeter sidewalks. Initial part of the course was really light, but just hard to run at pace. I immediately found the signs that marked the course a bit confusing. Just directional arrows, no text with how they should be followed in different times throughout the race. The course cross-backed over itself in a few places too, which made for some uncomfortable dodging, confusing moments. It was not long before I realized we were running a section of the course for the second time. but in the same direction as before. That's not how an out and back works. I was concerned, but we continued on. The course passed near the starting area a few times, so he decided to take a break from the race and ask about the direction problem. I was told that things were so screwed up that they had declared it an open course. Now I was supposed to go and run 13.1 miles of my choosing and come and finish. I wasn't amused. At first, I thought I'd just finish it up, but I was worried about hydration. I found one water station completely abandoned. Had to open a water jug and help myself. I realized I couldn't count on having water when I needed it. This was not going to count a half marathon in my book because of the course issues, and I didn't want a medal at this point. So my Run Disney friend actually just pulled himself from the race. Here's another review from Whitney Runs. Hers was pretty funny. Today's Garmin episode of Barely Hanging On is brought to you by the Hometown Half. Now y'all know it's story time. So Running for Really had the idea to do this race for our long run. Y'all, we got played. This was supposed to be a 15-mile progression run for me. I even checked the elevation ahead of time, and it was supposed to be a non-net gain of 490 feet. I climbed over 1,000 feet today. That elevation profile lied like a rug. Now, I was cruising the first half, then the heat really hit and the chaos broke out. Folks were just freestyling directions. I was lost. This was the most disorganized race ever. At one point, I stopped to walk and just have a nice little chat with the 2:30 pacers. We were totally over it. That gives you an idea that we weren't the only ones. We were not just out there and just poorly planned and don't know how to race, don't know how to do research beforehand, and just don't know the things. We were not the only ones. In fact, everyone on that course felt the same. Now, I promised you a sandwich. So we started with some good things. You got the gooey, smelly center in the middle. And then on the back end, there were some wonderful parts of Atlanta. First and foremost, my nephew is fantastic. He let us stay at his beautiful condo in Midtown Atlanta, nicknamed Midtown Motel. He even had like cute little Schitt's Creek style keychains made. It was fabulous. Thank you, Lawson. So, number one positive. Number two positive was after the race, we went to Krog Street Market, which was fantastic. We walked around and I had never had Jenny's ice cream. Turns out, and I really don't like ice cream, not an ice cream like person. Turns out I just don't like bad ice cream because Jenny's ice cream is good ice cream, and it turns out that I love that ice cream. So we went down there and we got Jenny's ice cream, and then we went to a little coffee shop called The Salty. Now, if you know me, if you've met me, one of my favorite things, I'm not a drinker, so one of my favorite things to do when I go explore a new city, or an old city for that matter, is to find a cute new little coffee shop that I haven't been to. So we went to The Salty, had a wonderful little coffee. I got the cinnamon cereal milk latte. And so it's made with like if you took Cinnamon Toast Crunch and soaked it in milk and then used that milk to make a latte. That was what the latte was made from. And it was delicious. I loved it. Okay, so by far, the Midtown Motel, that was excellent. We went to have dinner at this fantastic Asian restaurant. It's a little bitty tiny place. And when we walked by, it's full of Asian families. And I'm like, yep, that's the place. The Sheehan Gourmet House in Midtown Atlanta, absolute best Asian restaurant that we have ever gone to. Served authentic Chinese. We walked by, there's like Asian families talking in their native tongues. When we walked in, the sweetest little guy greeted us because it's a little intimidating, right? You walk in, there's only Asian, like you're just not sure about like if I'm going to be able to read the menu, if I'm going to look stupid, whatever. The sweetest little guy behind the counter, he immediately switches into English and he's like, hi, can I help you? And he just explained things to us. And he's like, let me show, please go ahead and sit down, blah, blah, blah. It only fit like maybe 25 people in the whole place, like tiny, 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 tiny. The guy seats us, and then we go back up and we order these delicious. My husband and I were going to share a noodle bowl, and he's like, probably can't do that because here's the thing. We hand make our own noodles, and there's 2 in each bowl. And then he stretches his arms out wide, and he said, each noodle is this long. And so it's hard to share. And we were like, well, I guess we'll have to get 2 then. So we got the beef noodle soup, which was amazing. And then we got the cumin lamb dry noodle. So one was like a wet noodle, one was a dry noodle. Oh my God. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. We also got the little green onion pancake. We got one of those. The mixed vegetables. Oh, that was what was so good. So it was not quite kimchi, but the mixed vegetables had this wonderful, like almost gochujang kind of umami tasting spice to it. Oh my gosh. So wonderful. Okay, so those are the wonderful things that were on the back end of the race. Were they race related? No, but they were still wonderful, so it still counts to make a sandwich. Okay, folks, all in all, I don't even have to say this. Do I have to say this? All in all, would I recommend this race? Absolutely not. Not in a million years. Not in 10 million years would I recommend anybody to do one of these races. I just care about your safety more than that. But here's the thing. If you've already paid for this race and you're like, nah, I'm going to go do it. Please just do your homework. Go out there, walk the course the night before, something like that. Drive the course, scooter the course, bike the course, something the course. Figure it out the night before. Number 2, bring your own aid and not just water. Bring your electrolytes, bring you some Powerade, bring you some element packs, bring you something that you can get some aid and electrolytes in there. Bring your gel packs, bring some nerd gummy clusters, whatever, Swedish fish. There's all kinds of different aids out there that you can bring. Bring your own aid. Do not count on this race supplying anything for you. You have to do it yourself. I feel better. I feel a little better now that I've got that off my chest. I really do. I feel better. You know what's funny? I actually got a little sweaty talking about that. Like I got so spun up that I was like, oh, I got a little warm. I got a little warm over here. Okay, I get a little passionate about this, but I think, passion is not a bad thing. Passion is a good thing, especially when it comes to protecting people and making people feel inclusive and growing this wonderful run community, which I believe so wholeheartedly about. Okay, let's talk about what's coming up next on Behind the Bib, though. I got to sit down with the fabulous Mackenzie Rink of the Realistic Runners. So I got to sit down with her, and I got to go over to Swift Recovery and do their metabolic testing, as well as I went to Return to Sport and did their salt testing. That's going to be coming up in some future episodes. All right, let's talk about some upcoming races in the Huntsville area as well. Coming up on June 27th, that is today, because this is going to publish on Friday, June the 27th. So we have the Greenway Grand Prix 4 mile. Also, if you haven't heard, there's a new run that Will Nevin has started putting on. It's meeting at Handel's Ice Cream tomorrow evening. You can find more information about that on Facebook. It's called the Dry Run, and it's going to be on Friday afternoons as well. So second one actually is tomorrow, June 27th. The Helen Keller 5 mile and 1 mile is June 28th, as well as the Pesky Piranha Youth Triathlon that's on June 28th as well. You've got kiddos that are wanting to get into multisport out there. Also, we've got 2 July 4th runs coming up. We got the Freedom 5K and the Independence Mile on July 4th, as well as the Firecracker 5K making a return this year. And then later in July, on July 18th, the Greenway Grand Prix makes another appearance with their 8K, still building to that final mileage destination. And on July 26th, you have the PGB Corporate 5K Gold Star Aloha Run Edition. Okay, folks, I am not going to link anything about this race in the show notes below. I'm going to link things from race directors and run directors that I think actually care about your safety and health and well-being. And that is the Park Run that is new here in Huntsville. That is the Rocket City Runners, which is new. They are not new. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary, as well as the Pub Run, which has been going on for a hot minute. Okay, folks, if you want to know where to run in Huntsville, go over to huntsvilleruns.com to get all your local run updates. It is delivered with passion and precision every Sunday by the always amazing Will Nevin. So if you want to get that local run update every Sunday afternoon, head over to huntsvilleruns.com. Real simple. Just provide your email address and you will get an update. I think they have something like 17 runs on that thing now. So you've always got an option. There's some morning runs, there's some evening runs, there's some weekend runs, there's some 3 a.m. runs. So head on over there and provide your email address and you will get an update on Sunday afternoon as well. Okay, friends, it is that time. This has been a spicy episode. I hope that we didn't offend too much. I was just feeling some kind of way. Go out there and check out Behind the Bib on Instagram, Behind the Bib on Facebook, and Behind the Bib podcast on YouTube. I'm really trying very hard to get this content in front of more people like you and me that care about this kind of stuff and that want to make our running community more inclusive and more accommodating and lower that barrier of entry for folks that just want to know what to expect. Okay? Stay safe out there, hydrate, get some salt, drink pickle juice, run slower, run in the shade, run in the morning at 3 a.m. You have that opportunity here in Huntsville. Thank you for being here. Let's keep showing up for one another, whether you're first, whether you're last, or whether you're somewhere in between. And I'll see you next time we're Behind the Bib. Just know it won't be at a hometown half marathon. All right. We'll see y'all next time. Take care. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Behind the Bib, where we have real talk for every runner.